Our next foremother is Joan Claybrook. For many of you, she needs no introduction, but for those of you who are thinking, that name sounds familiar, but who is she? Well, do look at the program and read about her, but I got one word for you: airbags. And if we think about, I mean, Joan's done so much for working to protect safety of all of us for decades. But I think few things really compare with making sure that our cars have airbags. And think of all the lives that have been saved just on that one thing, one of many, many things that she's done.
Well, Diana, it's a pleasure to be able to be here. I've twice been invited to come to Cosmos Club to speak, and I'm glad that I could come this time because the prior time I could not attend. I was invited when I was working for Jimmy Carter, and he had issued a regulation or executive order that said that his appointees were not allowed to go to segregated facilities, and this was a segregated facility. And the trucking industry, who had invited me, I had to call them and tell them that I'm sorry that I couldn't attend because the president wouldn't let me. And they had to move the luncheon. So, and then of course, the Cosmos Club woke up, and we can now all enjoy it. My story today is about the first woman dean of Georgetown Law Center who was fired from her job. Now, I know this story intimately because the day she was fired in April of 1998 was my first day as chair of her Board of Visitors at Georgetown Law School, which is essentially the board of directors for the law school because there's only one legal entity at all of Georgetown, and so the law school has a board of visitors. Judy Areen had been a law professor at Georgetown when she was selected as dean in 1989 and was given a 5-year contract. She was in her 9th year, her second 5-year contract, doing a spectacular job, raising more funds than any prior dean. A new building to house the first-year students was being built. She was in the midst of purchasing the rest of the land below that building at a huge discount to create now a 3-block campus and to raise funds for a new sports facility, library, and classrooms. She had created a board of visitors of dozens of prominent Georgetown graduate attorneys, most of whom were not involved in school before she became the dean. She had attracted a first-rate faculty. She had also opposed the appropriation of law school funds by the main campus to bail out the mismanaged hospital, which was just simply eating money. When I asked for an appointment with the president, his name was Robert O'Donovan, I was refused. I got 2 heavy financial hitters to the school, my predecessor and Bob Bennett, who many of you know in Washington, to request a meeting, and we were granted a phone call in which we were told that it was time for Judy to move on. Well, I'm not a heavy hitter, so I tackled this problem the only way I knew, by organizing. I told Judy there would be publicity, but she just had to ignore it. I stopped communicating with her because we were raising such a fuss, and I didn't want her to get blamed. It was an awful experience for her. We called the Washington Post. We sparked an article about the controversy. We talked with student leaders who demanded a meeting with the president. They got it. They did. We printed big white buttons with the red print that said, "Don't dump the dean." We printed 1,000 of them, which we distributed over the 2 campuses. I asked each member of the Board of Visitors to write letters to O'Donovan and all the members of the main Board of Directors. The students did the same, making hundreds and hundreds of calls. We organized a rally with some great speakers. We got pledges from law school contributors, $5 million worth, to say that they would put their money in escrow until Judy was reappointed. The law school professors wrote the president and the board a scathing letter. The main campus professors voted 44-1 against the firing. We worked with the students to call for the resignation of O'Donovan. We started calling large donors to the university to object to the firing. The university was in the midst of a national campaign to raise money. I sent a blast fax, there was no internet then, to the Board of Visitors members every day with the latest news. We sparked several more articles in the Post about all the objections to Judy's firing. Luckily, Congress was gone, so that it was the Easter recess and there wasn't much on the news. In response to O'Donovan saying first-class dean to replace Judy, we got the dean of NYU Law School to organize a letter signed by 10 top law deans across the country saying no one would take the job given the irrationality of firing Judy. What really outraged everyone who knew Judy was not only how unfair this was, because she had done such a great job, but how difficult it was for her at this particular time. 6 months earlier, her wonderfully talented 18-year-old son was killed when a dump truck lost its brakes and overturned on his car on Nebraska Avenue and killed him. And she was still deeply in mourning. And O'Donovan had spoken at her funeral. I was told that a Jesuit would never concede to pressure, but heck, I didn't have any other options. But 2 weeks after that, after I first notified of this, Judy called me about her firing. She sent a message for me to come to her office. And I happened to be at the law school at the time talking to some newly admitted students. She said O'Donovan was faxing her a new 5-year contract. Well, it turns out that you never know what's underneath, you know, the upper crust part. It turns out that O'Donovan had not told most of his board that they were doing this, and they were totally shocked when they got bombarded with all these calls and letters. His board chair, his name was John Kennedy, was aware that the chair of the law school committee, Winston Churchill, I kid you not, was not aware and was shocked. After our call for his termination and the immense turmoil over the hundreds of calls that each board member was getting, and the failure to inform the board of directors, O'Donovan was forced to concede. His chief aide, who had pushed to replace Judy, was fired. Another dean of the university, who had also been fired just before Judy, was reinstated, and is now, by the way, the president of Georgetown University. O'Donovan stepped down, to show you the talent that he was thrown all over the ship. O'Donovan stepped down a year later, and the financially mismanaged hospital was sold to MedStar. O'Donovan came to the law school that Friday afternoon when Judy had told me the news, to apologize to the faculty and to Judy. He saw me and he said that he didn't know I cared so much. And I said, now you know. Of course, so many people were outraged and cared enough to speak out to right a wrong. We did the right thing for Judy Areen, who is renowned among law school deans, but would have had a black mark on her record from this. We did the right thing for the law school, which was in the midst of trying to attract newly admitted students and to grow to the fabulous school it is today. And we did the right thing for the whole university, which is taking major strides under its next president. So the moral of the story to me is to make a fuss when you see a wrong, and you may have more power than you realize. Thank you.